the point of government spending is not just a small contributor to inflation, it's a huge contributor to inflation. And over the last few decades, government spending has increased dramatically on things that aren't really relevant to the citizens or to the citizen need. And that's including things like excessive foreign aid that isn't relevant to our friends and partners, contracts given to mates of mates for projects that are either unwise or unnecessary, and also the grant system, which seems to be heavily abused in recent decades. Have you seen, what, from your perspective, how much government spending could they really cut? Are we talking about a major cut by something like 30% would be doable in order for Australia to keep running along its normal path, but without, feeding into this inflation monster?
Well, if we use the inflation as the kind of the frame, what do we need to do to get inflation back to 2 to 3%? I think what you're talking about is running budget surpluses at the moment, something like $50 or $60 billion. So to get those sorts of that sort of budget surplus, everybody is going to have to wear some pain, and there's going to have to be cuts across the board. There should probably be a little bit of tax increases in some areas, such as perhaps a widening of the GST to some additional products which are not currently taxed. But I think all areas, perhaps except defence, need to take cuts, and I think there needs to be far greater constraint on transfers. It's going to be painful because at the moment everybody wants money because inflation is high. But we just need to make this effort. We need a major improvement in the budget, which will spread the pain substantially. I think it's across all areas, Alexandra. I don't think there's going to be any one particular line item which is going to have enough money there to bring back this sort of government spending level.
I don't know, the unions have got a lot of money. We could always try taxing them for a change and leave the ordinary workers and businesses alone for a while. But as others have pointed out, the government could always address the cost of energy, which has been recognised as one of the main reasons behind our economic problem at the moment. But it doesn't look like the government has any intention of looking at why our energy is so expensive. Is it important, Nick, for the government to address the cost of energy if we're to get out of this problem that we're in?
It's a really important point that you make, and if I can just talk about inflation a little bit more. We spoke about cost inflation, how when businesses' costs go up, they have to pass those costs on in higher prices, and higher prices is inflation. And when you actually look at the cost base of businesses, what are the really big items which affect every single business? Right? One of them obviously is wages, and there we're seeing some silly things going on with the Labor government as it's trying to benefit the union movement's membership by doing pattern bargaining and some other things there. I don't think that's good. So wages is obviously a really important one. Another one is actually financial services, that all businesses use financial services and they're costly. So we need to be careful that the cost of financial services don't increase too rapidly either. But the biggest one and the most critical one, apart from wages, is energy. If energy goes up, every single business pays that. And if you cannot control energy costs, if you can't get the investment into energy sources, which ultimately brings prices down, then this is going to be a major headwind to inflation long term. Now, there's been some short-term fixes, but what is going to be the long-term impact of a lot of the green policies, a lot of the movement to renewables? We need to be very careful, because if business continue to pay higher taxes there, higher charges there, it's going to be very difficult to control inflation long term.
Yes, well, energy prices is why your coffee went from $2.50 to $6 in the space of about 8 years, which is a crazy rise in cost. And of course, there's a limit to what consumers will pay. So you can say businesses will keep raising their costs, but at the end of the day, consumers will stop buying a lot of products that they don't require if the prices get too big. And that's when businesses start going out of business, and all of a sudden you'll go from low employment to very high employment because there'll be nowhere left to work. And I'm not sure that the Albanese government is prepared for that eventuality. But look, Nick, it was a great article, and thank you very much for joining us here on Spectator TV.
Thank you very much, Alexandra.